Because it's the first day or the first Sunday of the new year, I thought it would be appropriate to talk a little bit about goals and intentions and resolutions. One of the first things I want to say is sometimes a lot of people feel pressure to, come up with big things and resolutions. And so I want to first say that to give ourselves permission, I think it's important. It's good to have visions and goals and set intentions because without challenge, we don't grow. But I also want to say that it's important to not go into shame, if we feel like we're not going to set big goals around weight or money or relationships or travel or career or whatever we're going to do. I really invite you to be gentle with yourselves. I also want to circle back when Pema was sharing that beautiful story about her uncle. One of the things I do as a transformational therapist and coach is, so much of my work has been about helping people recover their, what we call emotional intelligence, their ability to feel, their ability to know what they're feeling and then be able to articulate that. Because, like we have a physical body and we have a mental body and a spiritual body, we have an emotional body. And our emotional body needs to be exercised like our physical body, like our mental body. For the spiritual work we do, there's practices and techniques and exercises that we do in all of those bodies. And I just really want to keep emphasizing that our emotional body is an alive thing, and it resonates with the vagus nerve in our body. So when life stimulates us, just like if our physical body felt cold or hot or scratchy or pain or joy or something, pleasure, the physical body can feel pain or pleasure. The emotional body has a range, a spectrum of emotions too, that it feels. And, I feel like previous generations, we have been taught that feelings made us weak. And if anything, I'm complete opposite. Matter of fact, a healthy emotional body that feels alive, that cries and has anger responsibly and has grief and has joy is a healthy body. When water comes out of our eyes, it's just a physiological response to our emotional body being alive. And I just invite all of us and encourage us to reclaim our emotional body and to the best of our ability, reclaim all the experiences, the sadness, the joy, the anger, the grief, everything, because it helps us be alive and it helps us be more whole. So I had to plug that because it feels so important. So getting back around to goals and intentions, I also was not a big person. I think there was a time when I maybe did set New Year's goals and stuff, but I never was very successful at achieving them. So I think over the years, I got more into, just not even bothering, having the resolutions or the goals. That doesn't mean I don't have goals in life, so even as I speak here, there's going to be moments that we're not going to have time for people to share. I thought maybe we'd have time, but we're not really going to have time for that. But I'm going to invite you, like even now, first, let's acknowledge we did gratitudes, but let's also acknowledge what you accomplished in this past year. So take a moment and even if it was small things, for me, there was a couple of big things. One of which was I lost 15 pounds this past year. And that was great because I had actually never successfully really lost any significant weight in my adult life. Matter of fact, I was progressively putting on weight, and it was last year because of COVID or the year before that I was like, I had put on almost the 15 pounds. I was like, this is it. I cannot keep gaining weight. This is not okay with me. And fortunately, I have a good friend that I spend a significant amount of time with who also was doing weight loss, and she turned me on to some keto, and we spend time together almost every week. And so I just started, I still let myself eat whatever. If I really want to eat something, I have splurges and stuff. But for the most part, I'm eating kind of a keto diet most of the week, which is good because then over time I've lost weight. So that's been great. So I really can acknowledge myself for that. And I want to lose some more weight. I feel like there's a little bit of mystery about how that's going to happen. I don't know with my current plan whether that's going to support it, but we'll see, but it was a great accomplishment for me because again, I had never in my adult life really done that. And I didn't know it was possible. So first I had to also do the mental part. I had to imagine wow, I just had to start believing it was possible, even if I didn't have the evidence for it or know how that was going to happen. So I did that. And then and then making some of the actual changes. And fortunately that occurred. And another big accomplishment for me this year was I had the best year yet towards getting my financial health together. So I'm really happy about that. You know, it's okay to tell you how old I am. I'm 63 years old. I'm going to be 64 in May. And I'm nowhere near feeling like I'm ready to have be set financially for retirement, or, I'm kind of a late bloomer financially, so I'm still kind of pulling that together. It's really only been in the last couple of years that I've started pulling my financial health together, but I'm making progress, and I'm very grateful for that. So I can pat myself on the back and acknowledge those things for me. So I invite you again to take a look at what you've accomplished this past year, even small things. And then with that, let's take a breath and start turning our attention towards the future, towards this year. Let's start imagining or start dreaming. It's important to dream. It's important to vision. What would we like? Again, I would like increased weight loss. I'd like even better financial health. But, beyond those things, as I started asking myself, it was in the meditation, I started asking myself, but what else do I want? What came up was I want to keep developing more presence. Like, I want more presence with people. Sometimes when I get together with people, there isn't a sensitivity, not that I don't have the ability for that, but sometimes we just don't really, get close to people. We don't talk about the hard stuff. I definitely have friends and people in my life that I can do that with. I can really talk about anything with, and they'll be vulnerable and sensitive and talk to me about their stuff. So, but I want an even heightened sensitivity. So it's about presence. And also I think that just something about some more meaningful experiences. So I don't know all the ins and outs of all that, but that's sort of what came up for me. So again, I just invite you to ask yourself, what are some of your goals or intentions for this coming new year? Again, they don't have to be really big things. Some people like gentle change, and some people like more radical change, and whatever it is okay. As we know, sometimes the universe brings us change, whether we like it or not. There was something, I was speaking with a woman the other day who, she and her partner lived in an Airstream, and that was really their home. And a few months ago, it was hit by a car at a high-speed chase and basically destroyed, and it was their home. And she was sharing, and of course it was catastrophic, but she was sharing with me, I was in another spiritual group where we got to have a breakout and spend time together, that they actually needed to make a change with that Airstream, and they didn't know how to do it. And the fact that, this unfortunate event happened turned out to be a blessing. As we know, tragedies can turn into treasures. So, and now they went on, they had a GoFundMe, and somebody in their larger community had another Airstream that they were willing to lend them or sell them. So she's saying it's so interesting how the greater intelligence of the universe can certainly create things or vision things or bring things to us in life that what I call our little minds just can't imagine. So, if we can manage sometimes the breakthroughs and the breakdowns, blessings happen. So it really, the pieces of the puzzle are falling together for them. So that was really incredible. So as we're doing this, we also know other techniques to create and manifest are, especially this time of year, people like to do vision boards, to bring visual representations of what we want by creating a vision board. Probably most of you know what that is, where we cut pictures out of magazines and stuff and create a board because having the visual representation is one of the ways we train our mind. I've done a lot of training in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which teaches us how the mind functions. And the way the mind functions actually is, my teacher said, you cannot actually have an experience without what's called a picture, sound, feeling, taste, or smell. The mind patterns experience and patterns energy through a representation of a vision, like a picture, a sound, a feeling, a taste, or a smell, which is the five senses. So, a lot of times if you think about, that when you think a thought, somehow it's imprinted. It has some kind of a representation of a feeling, sound, picture, taste, or smell. And that's why things like representations through vision or through sounds or through smells are so important. And also, as I move more into the talk here, we're going to talk about the law of attraction, which most people are familiar with. And also, I'm a big fan of an author named Neville Goddard, who wrote many books on manifesting. And in the years that I studied with a teacher where we read all Neville's books, we called it Nevilling. And Nevilling is where, again, you imagine or you conceive of something you want, but that the important part is that you then create a sensory representation of having it. Because visioning it and just thinking about it is one thing, but when you create that physical and that sensory representation of what it will feel like to actually have it, you start participating in the game of what we call law of attraction, because you start experiencing the physical sensation of it being real. Because the mind doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. But the body, through sensation, so when we pattern energy by feeling what it would feel like to have it, through law of attraction, we start attracting it to ourselves. So here's a quote from a book called Working with the Law by Raymond Hollowell. And he says, "No desire is felt until the supply is ready to appear. No mind can be conscious of a need or of a desire unless the possibility of its fulfillment exists. Your prayer, your desire, and your inner urge are like a magnet, and the stronger they are, the stronger the power of your magnet and the greater its attraction." So again, I'm sure many of us are familiar with the law of attraction, but it's always good to emphasize it. And then there's something called the law of variance. I can't remember where I got this from, whether this was Neville or exactly where, but the law of variance essentially is the degree to which the mind believes something is possible, because we can have dreams and ideas, but unless we actually believe they're possible, it's less likely, or the lower our belief in it being possible, the less likely it is to manifest. So the law of variance is what's called the distance between where you are, your present state or reality or state of mind, and your goal or where you want to be. The greater the distance, the less likely or more difficult it will be to close the gap or create the charge like a magnet. The charge or spark that creates is you, your creative force, measured or experienced through your experience of personal power of integrity. So, I did a lot of work with integrity principles for many, many years. And the integrity means, being true to your thought, word, and deed. And, there's many stages and many elements to integrity. One is, believing you are a source, knowing that you are, and of course we as spiritualists know we're something beyond this body. There's a part of us that's infinite and eternal. But then bringing our integrity also down into our personal life, being our word, keeping our agreements with ourselves, cleaning it up when we're not, being our word with others, cleaning it up when we're not, that kind of thing. So we're not trying to get perfect here, but the more integrity we have, the stronger our force will be. So you can measure this force by how strongly you feel you are a source or a manifester. If the gap is too wide, your mind will not believe it's possible. It will invalidate your intention, and therefore you will not experience support from the universe. The closer you are to source, the more powerful will be your intention and experience to manifest. Therefore, to get closer to source, begin closing the gap by cleaning up your integrity. The teachings of Abraham speak about taking the next logical step in our manifesting. Also, one of my previous teacher, a man named Satyan Raja, he does the Warrior Sage program, said, "Want what you have, love what you have." In other words, when you experience gratitude for what you have, you get more of what you want. So again, there's an emphasis on the gratitude part. All right, now here's some principles on notes of the law of attraction, and these came from Abraham Hicks' work, the book Ask and It Is Given. Many of us are probably familiar with that. Let's take a breath as we hold our power and our attentions and just listen to these principles. The law of attraction says that what you think and feel is what you attract, no exception. You get what you think about whether you want it or not. Your thoughts are vibrations and attract like vibrations through the law of attraction. What you think and therefore feel and what manifests in your experience are always a vibrational match. The basis of your thoughts are magnetic and expand with your attention. Once you put your attention on what you are intending, if you can focus and hold it there for even 20 seconds, 20 seconds. A lot of us, can we hold our, I'm noticing in this age of technology and constant stimulation that I don't have the attention span that I used to. Maybe, I read, but not as much. I'm either on Facebook or on my computer or on my phone, or I have some kind of stimulation going on almost all the time. Of course, I do take walks and things like that. So I'm not always on tech, but it's really interesting to notice to what extent, especially if we're meditators, and we sit, that's important. Because again, I love this, that it says that if you hold it there for even 20 seconds, through the law of attraction, matching vibrations become activated and begin to attract other thoughts and vibrations that match your intention. Your ability to manifest your intention has been put into motion, but is not very strong yet. It is very important that during this time you manage any what's called counter intentions and maintain your focus. So as some of you know, I do a lot of mind management work. And one of the things is to remind ourselves that just because we think a thought doesn't mean it's true. And we used to play a game with what we call intentions and counter intentions. And sometimes, so we would state our intention, and then what's called counter intentions of all the reasons the mind wants to bring up why it's not possible, we would just clip them away with our invisible scissors. So you can manage your counter intentions and maintain your focus. It's also like, recognizing the mind almost like a computer, and just because a thought comes up doesn't mean, we can press the delete button. We can just literally shift our attention. In our work, our definition of free will is our ability to place, remove, and shift our attention. And we can do that, and we do it all the time. When we're reading menu, when we're shopping in stores, we put our attention on things and pull it back through choice. And we can do that even with thoughts like when we have thoughts that bring up fear or sadness or grief, we can decide they're not true. So it's a very powerful skill, and I recommend that you develop that if you haven't already. It is very important that during this time you manage any counter intentions and maintain your focus. They also go on to say, when you place pure focus on a pure thought for even 70 seconds, so expand that 20 seconds out to 70 seconds. We're talking barely just over a minute. The vibration becomes so powerful that manifestation begins. So again, this doesn't mean, so even planting these seeds of intention, of things we want in the new year, and feeling the things the associated feelings is powerful. The longer you keep your attention on something, the easier it becomes to keep your attention on it, because you begin attracting matching thoughts and vibrations. What you put your attention on grows. Doing this repeatedly for a few hours or a few days creates a dominant thought, in other words, an intention, and you will begin experiencing matching manifestations. As vibrations expand, they become more powerful and are powerful enough for manifestation to occur. Even small efforts in the right direction can yield results. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope that this was hopefully just a little inspiration for your intentions, your goals, your resolutions, ways to challenge yourself, give yourself permission for things you want. Some of us are in recovery, like myself a little bit, to imagine, what do I really want? And give ourselves permission to dream and imagine having it and improving our quality of life and getting happier. That's a road that I've been on, and it's working. So I really recommend, because again, worst comes to worst, the things you want don't happen or don't happen this year. But it's important to dream and to have dreams. And we're much more likely to manifest if we have them and set our intentions and let people know. I know there's a book you probably heard called something about 10 rules or techniques of highly successful people. And one of those is they write their goals down. So that's another technique that we really recommend. So blessings for all of you, for your goals, your intentions, your dreams, your happiness, your health, your wealth, in all capacities, and blessings for 2022.